What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you my number 11 power rank team for the 2021 NFL season, and let me tell you, today we're going to get a little angry because I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing hate and more hate come into these Vikings. Do you understand how good these Vikings are? Do they have a couple positions of need? For sure. Do they maybe not have the best players in the world at some positions? For sure. But you cannot look at this team and tell me that they are even close to what they were last year. Last year, they were an injured and just bad shell of what they really are. And today we're going to go over their roster, and I'm going to tell you why these Vikings are being majorly underrated by many, except for Vikings fans who know how good they are. So, starting off, and we are using ESPN, because I got many complaints for, I've been using Our Lads. I liked Our Lads. We'll use ESPN. I guess it's more accurate, which it is. I mean, Our Lads definitely had some things wrong on there. But starting off with the quarterback position, since it's different layout now, Kirk Cousins. I understand that this guy gets the hate that he does deserve sometimes. I mean, yes, he will lose you a few games. That's just going to happen, unfortunately, with Kirk Cousins. And primetime games, you're screwed. But Kirk Cousins is not that bad. Like, you can look at the stats, you can look at the play itself. Does he have an amazing offensive weapons around him? Yes, but he does well with them, and I think he gets a little bit too much hate, to be honest. He gets the job done, that's for sure. Yes, he will give away a couple games. Again, primetime, you're screwed, but Kirk Cousins is not as bad as everyone says. Kellen Mond looks to be their guy of the future, and Kellen Mond was actually a guy that I was rising more and more on as the draft process went on. And this is a guy that just kind of comes across to me as, that developmental type guy, a nice strong arm, but also pretty mobile. And the more I think about it, I really like the idea of Kellen Mond actually being their quarterback of the future, developing under Kirk Cousins, who's got 2 years left on his contract, I think. So Kellen Mond was actually a really solid pickup by these Vikings. And what's even better is you actually have two other young quarterbacks to where if Kellen Mond doesn't work out, you have two other guys that potentially could. Nate Stanley who came out of Iowa, Jake Browning. I don't think they'll be anything, but they are two guys with potential, that's for sure. And so quarterback, you have a nice young rookie who I think has a shot at being your quarterback of the future. Kirk Cousins gets too much hate. Like, yes, he deserves some of it, but he gets too much. For me, this room is going to be a B-. Then the running back room, Dalvin Cook, in my opinion, is the second best running back in the NFL. Again, just this guy does work. I think, he is certainly starting to get some of his recognition, but I still think people underrate him a little bit because he gets the job done. He gets it more than done. I mean, the stats show it. Just his play in general, like, this guy is very quick while also at the same time being a very physical dude that can also catch. So he's a fantastic dual threat type guy to have there. Dalvin Cook, in my opinion, second best running back in the league. Now, Alexander Mattison is a guy that I think a lot of people overrate. A lot of people call the Vikings one of the better running back duos. And yeah, Madison's good, but I don't think he's that good. I think people kind of overrate him. Amir Abdullah is whatever. They picked up Keen Nwangwu, who, I'm going to be honest, I never heard about until they actually drafted him. But he looks to be a solid little, potential type guy. But for right now, you have, the second best running back in the NFL, in my opinion. I do think Madison's a little bit overrated, but you still have some nice young depth behind him. But with all that included, that's an A+. You have nice young depth as well as the second best in the league, so A+. At wide receiver, Justin Jefferson obviously had one of the best rookie wide receiver season ever last year. Now, there's definitely got to be some regression expected. I don't expect Jefferson to have the same year. I could definitely still see him going over 1,000 yards because, with all rookies, there's a chance that they have a sophomore slump. There's a chance that they don't. I see that a bit more likely with Justin Jefferson just in terms of I don't think he'll be as deadly as last year because what he did for his rookie season was really unprecedented. But regardless, he is still an elite receiver, and there's all the chance in the world that he does kind of repeat what he did last year. Adam Thielen, this is a guy that I will fight you with, but he is a top 10 receiver. I don't care what you say. He is not an athletically gifted guy, no, but his work ethic is something to admire, and just how much he really has worked to become a top 10 receiver in the league. What he lacks in athleticism, he makes up for pretty much everything else in the game. Is he getting up there in age? Yes, but he is still a top 10 receiver to me, so you have a very, very good duo here. Chad Beebe, KJ Osborne, where is BC Johnson? He's down there. It's all a bunch of whatever depth. Past your front two, you don't really have much. D.D. Westbrook, brought over from the Jaguars, I think, does bring it some nice speed element and stuff, but we'll see. Amir Smith Marset was not someone I was super high on coming out of college, but they picked him up. They also assigned Warren Jackson, nice big physical receiver from CSU last year. So, you got one of the best duos in the NFL, but then the depth gets very meh after that. So because of that depth, it is going to drop down to an A, but that is still one of the best, if not the best, receiving duo in the NFL right now. Then a tight end. Irv Smith Jr. is one of my breakout players this year. He is a great speed, deep threat type tight end, but can also block relatively well. He's actually a really solid route runner as well for being a tight end. Irv Smith has been really solid his first two years, I'm pretty sure. This wasn't his rookie year. I'm pretty sure it's been 2 years. Either way, he's been solid so far in the NFL as kind of the backup to Kyle Rudolph. And I think now that he's the starter, this is his year where he's really going to take off. So I'd expect a breakout year from Irv Smith. Tyler Conklin is whatever. They picked up Zach Davidson, who I wasn't a big fan of. So you have a guy who's a breakout candidate, really nice speed type tight end here with some whatever depth, not really anything good. So because of that, for right now, it's going to be a C, but that could definitely improve because, again, I expect a breakout year from Irv Smith. We've always just kind of skipped over fullback in the past, but CJ Ham is one of the better fullbacks in the NFL. Looking at left tackle, I'd imagine Christian Darrisaw is probably starting for you. They have Rashad Hill starting here, so I don't know if Darrisaw is dealing with some injuries or he's looking bad in camp or something. But I'd imagine Darrisaw's probably starting for you. This was a guy that I gave a lot of praise through the draft process, so the fact that they traded down to 23 and still somehow picked him up was one of the best moves, if not the best pick of the entire draft for me. I would much prefer him starting over Rashad Hill, even if there is some growing pains, because Rashad Hill is, not a guy you want starting, obviously. But regardless, you have two guys who maybe you're not going to get the best out of them day one, but I definitely see that upside with Darrisaw, just this big athletic guy. So for right now, it's going to receive a C-, but again, can go up. At left guard, Ezra Cleveland, who has been solid. That's pretty much all I have to say about him. He's been solid. Drew Samia is a whatever as a backup. It's very meh to me, but I don't feel like Ezra Cleveland is quite worth keeping it at a C, so I'm going to give that a C- as well. At center, Garrett Bradbury has been also pretty solid. He's kind of teetering on that edge of good for me ever since coming out. Mason Cole, once again, as your backup is whatever. They do have a nice mix of backups here. One of the better depth rooms, but none of the backups really pop out. But Garrett Bradbury has been a pretty solid guy, so that's definitely better than the other two so far to me. And Bradbury's still young and growing, so I'm going to give that a C+. And same thing with Cleveland. Again, I just don't see much upside out of Cleveland, really. At right guard, I don't feel like Oli Udoh is going to be starting. At the very least, Dakota Dozier is going to be starting for you, and even then, really, he shouldn't be. Again, they have Wyatt Davis listed at 3 here, so I don't know if I think he was dealing with some injury issues, but regardless, I don't feel like he'll be the 3. At the very worst, he'll be the 2 behind Dakota Dozier, in my opinion, if he doesn't start. Wyatt Davis was a guy that I was lower on than a lot of people coming out of college, just because he was receiving even first-round praise by some, and I thought that was just kind of a little ridiculous to be giving him first-round praise. But he is still a very solid guard. I think he fits this Minnesota offensive line nicely. And there's definitely the upside with him. Dakota Dozier was far from the best starter for the Vikings when they did use him, but I think he's your backup. He's a nice, experienced guy that knows what he's doing there for Minnesota. So all in all, I mean, it's a young. You got a nice young guy there. It's not going to be the best day one. So for right now, it's just going to be a C. This offensive line is very meh, but it has that extreme upside. And then at right tackle, Brian O'Neill. In his fourth year, I want to say, here with Minnesota, third or fourth. He has been a solid tackle for them so far. Some people think he's underrated. I don't think he's underrated. I think he's properly. I mean, I don't think he's a meh tackle. I do think he is, a solid, nearing good type guy. I feel like he's properly rated. I don't think he's like underrated like some people say. Not really any depth behind them. I mean, Brandel and Bailey, whatever. But, you do have a solid starter there who, again, also has extreme upside. That is the thing with this entire offensive line. I mean, if you started Wyatt Davis and Christian Darrisaw along with Cleveland, Bradbury, and O'Neill, I mean, I think that 25 is the oldest guy on that line, and the rest of these guys are like 22 and 23. So, yeah, it's not going to be the best offensive line day one, but, I guarantee at least one of those guys is going to turn into, a potentially elite offensive lineman. Again, right now it's not the best, but for the future, this offensive line, if all goes well, could be a very scary offensive line. So all in all, it's a good offensive line for the future, but right now could be a bit of a concern. And obviously, if you're not willing to start guys like Darrisaw or Wyatt Davis right away, Dakota Dozier and Rashad Hill are not much better. So either way, it's not the best right now, but it does look good for the future. So this offense, I mean, offensive line, whatever, you're hoping for the future, but this offense is filled with just talent. I mean, again, Kirk Cousins gets a little bit too much hate, but you have one of the best running backs, one of the best receiver duos, a breakout tight end here. So it's a special offense. I'm pretty sure they were third in yards gained last year. So this is it's a very good offense, even without the best offensive line. If they do get a best offensive line, who knows? Maybe they're the best offense. So we'll have to see. But the part where this really shines for me is the defense. I don't understand how people are looking at this defense and thinking it's the same thing. Last year, they did not have Danielle Hunter. They did not have Michael Pierce. They didn't have Dalvin Tomlinson or Sheldon Richardson or Jalen Twine, who is now not even on the team. I don't know why he's here. They didn't have Patrick Jones. They did not have Anthony Barr at times. They didn't have Patrick Peterson, Bashaud Breeland. They didn't have Xavier Woods. So I don't really know how people are looking at this team and thinking that it's the same, because this defense is so incredibly improved. And I mean, starting off with that, you have one of the best pass rushers in football with Danielle Hunter. It's so great that they got him back, because I'm pretty sure they figured out the whole contract stuff and everything. Danielle Hunter, when he's healthy, when he's on the field, has help. He's a top 5 pass rusher. I mean, look at the previous 2 years before last year. I'm pretty sure he combined for like 34 sacks or something like that. Danielle Hunter is an elite, scary pass rusher that they did not have last year. They picked up Jalen Holmes, which is whatever, but regardless, that room's going to get you an A. There's no depth, but an A because of Hunter. At the defensive tackle room, they literally did not have any of their top 3 guys. Michael Pierce opted out, and he's great to have back, obviously. They picked up Dalvin Tomlinson and Sheldon Richardson, who are 2 great pieces to have there, and Tomlinson is still very, very good as your number 2 instead of your number 1. And you have some nice depth beyond there with a guy like James Lynch or Armon Watts. Jalen Twyman got released, so I don't know why he's still on the roster here. This O means something, obviously. But regardless, I mean, this entire defensive tackle room is completely revamped. You didn't have any of these guys last year, so that's way better. And this defensive tackle room is going to get you an A-. At the other defensive end room, last year you had, I believe, DJ Wonham starting for you. Now you have Stephen Weatherly, who is an upgrade. And they also have some nice young depth behind there with Kenny Walikis and Patrick Jones, who I wasn't a big fan of. But regardless, you have some nice young depth as well as definitely a step up in a starter there. So once again, you upgraded there. They literally upgraded at the entire defensive line, as well as adding some nice young guys there. At linebacker, again, you didn't have Anthony Barr for parts of last season, so he's great to have back, obviously. Eric Kendricks is one of the best linebackers in football. Nick Vigil is a solid guy, and they have, again, some nice depth beyond that. Troy Dye, I was a big fan of coming out of Oregon. Tuff Borland holds some potential coming out of Ohio State, and Chaz Surratt was one of my favorite linebackers coming out of this year's class. So, and not to mention Ryan Connelly is also a solid guy as well. So you have one of the best starters, a very underrated starter that you didn't have for a good part of last year, a solid guy, and some very, very good young depth here. Once again, this is a much improved, much better linebacking room that's going to get you an A-. And then looking at cornerback, this is even better because last year your starters were Cameron Dantzler and Harrison Hand, who actually both looked pretty good. But now you bring over Bashad Breeland and Patrick Peterson as well as Mackenzie Alexander. Oh my God. I mean, Bashad Breeland is one of the most underappreciated players in the NFL. He goes in and year out, and he basically shuts down guys the best that he can. He's not an elite cornerback, but he is definitely one of the better guys, and again, just super underappreciated. Patrick Peterson did suck last year, yes, but you're also taking him from a very complicated and tough Arizona defensive scheme and moving him over to a very simple and much easier Vikings kind of cover 2 scheme here for Patrick Peterson. So I expect him to bounce back since he's in a much easier scheme. Mackenzie Alexander was a nice depth guy to bring over if you want to move him over to like backup slot or stuff, because now you can put a guy like Cameron Dantzler in your slot, who again looked very good last year. Harrison Hand also showed some nice upside. Chris Boyd has a bit of upside. This corner room is also much, much improved, and that corner room is going to earn you a B for right now. At strong safety, Harrison Smith, who I feel like you could be expecting a regression from him at some point soon. But regardless, I mean, right now he is still a top 10, easily a top 10 safety and arguably a top 5 safety. He's still dominant with a guy like Josh Metellus behind him, who's whatever's backup, but that's going to get you an A- for right now. And then at free safety, they picked up Xavier Woods, who was a big upgrade over Anthony Harris, who kind of sucked last year compared to his breakout year from a couple years ago, or maybe it was 3 years ago. Regardless, he's an upgrade over what Anthony Harris was last year. He's actually a really nice fit in this Minnesota defense. Not to mention that I like Cameron Bynum as a guy for the future there. This defense improved at literally every single position. And not only did it improved mightily. Again, you literally did not have any of these top 3 defensive tackles. You didn't have Stephen Weatherly. You didn't have a top 5 pass rusher. You didn't have one of your starting linebackers. You didn't have these 2 cornerbacks. Like, this defense is so much improved. It's crazy. And not only that, but like it's built for the future in some ways too. I mean, guys like Patrick Peterson, Breeland are, kind of patch-ups for this year. But again, you have guys like Cameron Dantzler, Cam Bynum, Harrison Hand, Chaz Surratt, Tuff Borland, Troy Dye, Kenny Walikis, Patrick Jones, Jalen Holmes. So like this is a team that's built not just to compete now, but for the long term as well. And you have a lot of young guys that I really enjoy here. So this defense, I've heard a few people say their defense is the same. They didn't improve. What are you talking about? Because they literally improved at every single position. This defense is going to be scary again next season. And then moving on to the special teams, Greg Joseph is a good kicker. Britton Colquitt, one of the better punters. Kick returner, I mean, I'd imagine you're probably looking at D.D. Westbrook, but again, it could be different guys. Amir Abdullah, Vikings fans, let me know. And special teams itself actually is a pretty solid unit overall. They lost a couple solid special teams players this year, but regardless, this team is built to compete now and for the future. They have a lot of fantastic players. They have a lot of fantastic young players, young depth, rookies that I really enjoy. I think Mike Zimmer, one of the better defensive coaches, is going to lead this defense to being a top 5 unit. This offense, again, obviously is really good, even if I do expect a bit of aggression from guys like Justin Jefferson. It's so young, it's so talented, and also set to compete now that this is a scary team that people really need to watch out for and stop underrating. It's not even a case of, well, we need to see if this guy plays well. This team will play well, and I fully believe that after Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams are gone next year, the Vikings run the NFC North. So now let's go take a look at their schedule, coaching, and culture, even though we kind of talked about their coaching and culture already. And taking a look here at their schedule, first off, I don't know why the Rams and the Chargers have their old logos on here, but regardless, one of the things that also helps this team out this year is the fact that they don't have one of the tougher schedules in the NFL. Now, they play in a division with, the Packers and, again, those Bears and Lions games are going to be tough. Well, except for the Lions, those are going to be tougher games. Obviously, they're division games. There are a lot of games here that could be easier, much easier for these Vikings. The Bengals, the Lions, obviously, the Cowboys, the Bears, the Steelers, and the Panthers. So there are some there are some easy games here. Now, there are also a lot of tough games as well. I mean, Cardinals, Seahawks, Browns, Packers, 49ers, Chargers, Ravens, Rams. Those are going to be some very tough games. Which is ultimately part of the fact that they're so young is that you're going to have a bit of inexperience, obviously. And that's why I don't necessarily think the Vikings are going to have that great of a record, even though they do have such a good team, as they do have a lot of young inexperience there. Along with it's an easy schedule in some regards, but also very tough in others. It helps having some of those games having some of those tougher games at home, the Packers, the Rams, Seahawks, and Browns. So this is a team that it's kind of hard to tell, because even a team like, say, perhaps like the who am I thinking of? Wow, I'm having an absolute, just can't think right now, can I? Even the Cardinals, right, for example, who have a very good team, and then it'll be a tough game. If you look at their cornerback situation, and you have that duo there of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, a tough game there might not be so tough because you have those favorable matchups. And the Vikings fit a lot of those things of having those favorable matchups against some of these better teams. So this is an unpredictable team. I mean, in all reality, there is a legit chance that even with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, the Vikings could win the division. Truly, there's a chance because this team is so talented. That defense is going to come back harder than anyone. I expect Mike Zimmer to lead this team to the playoffs. And that's another thing, is that Mike Zimmer, again, is a good coach. He was on the hot seat, for a very disappointing season. But you have to understand how hurt this team was by injuries and COVID and all that. And they are so back. And their culture is also really nice. I mean, this is a team that obviously, loves playing the game, but also knows how to have fun and still win at the same time. You combine such a talented, young, future and current built team with a great coach and a great culture. The Vikings are a majorly underrated team, and that's why I have them at number 11. But that is the video. If you guys liked it, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you guys so much for watching number 10 tomorrow. Leave your guesses in the comments as to who number 10 is, and I will see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.